There is a small, everyday object sitting on the edge of your bathroom sink right now. It is smooth, clean, and completely ordinary. You probably use it multiple times a day without even thinking about it. We use it to wash our hands, clean our faces, and wash away the day. It is a simple bar of soap. Today, soap is so cheap and common that we give it away for free in public restrooms. We treat it like it is nothing. But if you could travel back in time and hand a modern bar of soap to a king from the Middle Ages, he would probably treat it like a chest of gold. For most of human history, a clean, pleasant-smelling bar of soap did not exist. For thousands of years, the simple act of staying clean was a daily battle against grease, sweat, and terrible disease. Millions of people died simply because they did not have a way to wash their hands. To understand how a mix of wood ash and animal fat became the greatest lifesaver in human history, we have to travel back more than 4,000 years. We have to go back to a world where being clean was not about looking good. It was about survival. The boiling pots of Babylon. Imagine walking through the dusty streets of ancient Babylon around the year 2800 before the Common Era. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, roasting meat, and open drains. You walk past a large clay pot boiling over an open fire. Inside that pot, a worker is stirring a thick, gray mixture. It does not smell like lavender or spring flowers. It smells heavy, greasy, and sharp. This is the earliest evidence of soap ever found by archaeologists. The ancient Babylonians wrote their recipe down on a clay tablet. They mixed water, animal fat, and wood ash together, and they boiled it. It was a simple chemical reaction, but it was a true breakthrough. But here is the twist that surprises most people. The Babylonians did not make this mixture to wash their bodies. They did not care about body odor the way we do today. Instead, they used this crude, greasy soap to clean wool and cotton textiles. They needed a way to strip the natural grease out of sheep's wool so they could dye it and weave it into cloth. To them, soap was an industrial chemical, not a personal luxury. That should have been the first step toward modern hygiene. Instead, the recipe was lost to time, and other cultures had to figure out how to stay clean all over again. The oils of Egypt and the myth of Mount Sapo. If you travel down the Nile River to ancient Egypt around 1500 before the Common Era, you find a very different approach to the human body. The Egyptians loved cleanliness. They bathed regularly, and they hated body odor. An ancient medical document called the Ebers Papyrus shows us that the Egyptians mixed animal fats with vegetable oils and alkaline salts. They used this paste to wash their skin and treat painful skin diseases. It helped them stay healthy in the hot desert sun. But as the centuries passed, the secret of how to make true soap seemed to slip away once more. When you look at the ancient Romans, you find a society famous for its massive public baths. The Romans built beautiful stone complexes with heated floors and giant pools of warm water. Millions of people gathered there every day to socialize and relax. You might think these grand Roman baths were filled with soap suds. They were not. The Romans did not use soap to wash their bodies. Instead, imagine standing in a steaming Roman bathhouse. You rub scented olive oil all over your skin, massaging it into your arms and legs. The oil mixes with your sweat and the dirt on your body. Then, you take a curved metal tool called a strigil. You scrape the tool hard against your skin, scraping away the dirty oil, dead skin, and sweat, flicking it onto the stone floor. It was effective, but it was rough, oily, and slow. There is an old Roman legend that tries to explain how soap got its name. The story says there was a mountain called Mount Sapo, where people sacrificed animals to the gods. The fat from the animals mixed with the hot wood ash from the fires. When it rained, this greasy mixture washed down the hillside into the Tiber River. The local women washing clothes in the river noticed that the water in that specific spot cleaned their fabrics much faster. The story says the word soap comes from Mount Sapo. It is a beautiful story. It makes perfect sense. But I am going to be straight with you. Most modern historians think Mount Sapo is completely made up. There is no record of a mountain with that name anywhere near Rome. the story is a popular legend that showed up much later in history. The reality is that the Romans learned about real soap from the people they conquered. They watched the Celtic and Germanic tribes mix animal tallow with ash to wash their hair and color it red. The Romans thought it was barbaric. Eventually, Roman physicians noticed that this tribal mixture actually cleaned the skin better than oil and scrapers. But just as the Roman world was starting to accept soap, everything changed. The Roman Empire collapsed, and the knowledge of how to make soap was scattered into the wind. The Dark Ages of dirt. For hundreds of years after the fall of Rome, Europe entered a time where staying clean became a massive challenge. The grand public baths fell into ruins. The supply chains that carried clean water and olive oil broke down completely. People did not stop washing entirely, but the way they thought about dirt changed. In the early Middle Ages, soap making became a small, hidden craft. A few clever artisans across Europe started gathering in towns to share their secrets. They formed guilds, which were like secret clubs for craftsmen. By the 1100s, specific cities became famous for their soap. Marseille in France, Venice in Italy, and the region of Castile in Spain became the soap-making capitals of the Western world. The soap makers in Castile did something brilliant. Instead of using smelly animal fat, they used pure olive oil mixed with ash from burned sea plants. The result was a hard, white, gentle bar of soap that did not spoil or smell bad. It was called Castile soap. It was beautiful. It was gentle on the skin, but it created a massive problem for ordinary people. Castile soap was incredibly expensive. It took months to make, and olive oil was a luxury. Only kings, queens, and the richest nobles could afford to buy a bar of hard white soap. The average peasant family had to settle for a terrible, dark, jelly-like soap made from leftover kitchen grease and wood ash. It was harsh, it burned the skin, and it smelled awful. Most people used it for laundry, not for their own bodies. And then, the world got even darker. The fear of the pores. In the 1300s, a terrible sickness swept across Europe. It was the Black Death. It killed millions of people in just a few short years. Nobody understood how the sickness spread. They did not know about bacteria or fleas. Doctors at the time looked for anything to blame, and they came up with a theory that would shape human hygiene for the next 3 centuries. They argued that the disease was carried in the air. They believed that when you took a hot bath, the warm water opened up the tiny pores in your skin. Once your pores were open, the deadly disease in the air could slip right inside your body. Think about how terrifying that thought was. People genuinely believed that washing your body with warm water and soap could literally kill you. So, they stopped. For hundreds of years, from the 1400s to the 1700s, bathing fell completely out of fashion in Europe. Even kings and queens rarely washed their bodies with water. They changed their linen shirts regularly, believing that the clean cloth would absorb the sweat and dirt from their skin, keeping them safe. Soap was pushed out of the bathroom and back into the laundry room. People lived in a world of constant body odor, skin infections, and terrible plagues. The humble bar of soap was feared, misunderstood, and pushed to the margins of society. The call of the hidden history. If you have made it this far, you are probably the kind of person who enjoys discovering the hidden stories behind everyday things. That's exactly what we explore here every week. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Now, because what happened next changed everything. The chemists and the great cleanup. By the late 1700s, the world was changing fast. Cities were growing larger, factories were opening, and the air was thick with soot and dirt. The old superstitions about open pores were starting to fade, and people wanted to be clean again. But the world was running out of the ingredients needed to make soap. To make soap, you need 2 main things: a fat and an alkali. For centuries, the alkali came from burning wood or sea plants to get ash. But Europe's forests were shrinking, and plant ash was getting hard to find. Soap was still too expensive for the masses. Everything changed in 1791. A French chemist named Nicolas Leblanc invented a way to turn ordinary table salt into soda ash using a chemical process. Suddenly, soap manufacturers had access to a cheap, infinite supply of high-quality alkali. A few decades later, another French chemist named Michel-Eugène Chevreul made a massive discovery. He figured out the exact science of how fats and alkalis bond together. This process is called saponification. For the first time in history, soap making stopped being a game of guesswork and secret recipes. It became a precise science. Factories could now mix ingredients perfectly, making tons of cheap, reliable soap every single day. But the biggest breakthrough did not happen in a lab. It happened on the battlefield. The lifesaver of the battlefields. In the mid-1800s, a major war broke out in Crimea. Thousands of soldiers were dying, but not just from bullets and swords. They were dying from infections and diseases in the dirty military hospitals. A British nurse named Florence Nightingale arrived at the hospitals and was shocked by the filth. She realized that the dirt was killing the men. She demanded that the floors, walls, and sheets be scrubbed clean with soap and water. She made the doctors wash their hands. The results were miraculous. The death rates in the hospitals dropped instantly. A few years later, during the American Civil War, the same lesson was applied on a massive scale. Governments began to realize that a simple bar of soap was just as important as ammunition. It kept armies healthy and alive. By the late 1800s, scientists finally proved the germ theory of disease. They proved that tiny, invisible creatures called bacteria were causing the infections that killed millions. And they discovered that regular soap did not just lift dirt away, it physically destroyed the germs. Soap went from being an expensive luxury to a basic medical necessity. The birth of the soap empire. Once people realized that soap could save their lives, the market exploded. The late 1800s and early 1900s became the golden age of soap branding. Companies started racing to make their soap look, smell, and feel better than anyone else's. In America, a company called Procter & Gamble accidentally left a mixing machine running too long, pumping extra air into a batch of soap. The result was a white bar of soap that floated in water. They named it Ivory Soap, and it became a massive global hit because people didn't lose their soap at the bottom of the tub. Another company mixed palm oil and olive oil together to create a gentle soap called Palmolive. By the early 1900s, it was the best-selling soap in the world. During the World Wars, fat shortages hit the globe again. Scientists responded by inventing synthetic detergents made from petroleum and other chemicals instead of animal fat. These new detergents cleaned clothes and dishes even better, leaving the traditional bars of soap just for human skin. Soap had finally conquered the world. The invisible miracle. Today, we live in a world that is cleaner than any era that came before us. We wash our hands before dinner, we scrub our children after they play in the dirt, and we step into hot showers every morning. We take it all for granted. We forget that the smooth bar of soap on your sink is the result of 4,000 years of human struggle. It survived the burning fires of ancient Babylon, the rough metal scrapers of Rome, the dark centuries of disease and fear, and the industrial factories of the modern world. It is an object that succeeded so completely that it became invisible. It is a quiet, everyday miracle that saves millions of lives every year without asking for any credit. The next time you wash your hands, take one extra second to look at that simple bar of soap. You are holding the history of human survival right in the palm of your hand. If you enjoyed this story, let us know in the comments what surprised you the most. And if you'd like another hidden chapter of history, there's another story waiting for you.